Welcome back to Close to Broke. My name is Kieran with Stephanie, who just put on the stunner shade. And today you find me at a local eatery here in Highland Park, which is kind of where I live. I can promise you by a freaking mile and a half, this is the most action packed. This is the most ridiculous 5, 10, 20 game I've ever been in my life. The Commerce, 8 p.m. on a Sunday, ended up being ridiculous. Let's hop into today's session. We actually have to make this video 2 parts because I played for 7 or 8 hours. So let's get right into it. These first 2 hands come in succession. So let's hop right into the first one where we look down at ace-10 of spades. I'm in the middle position. I make it $30 to go. Next to act decides to make the call, and the cutoff makes a 3-bet to $80. All right. At this point, we both make the call, and we're going off to a flop that comes ace, queen, jack, rainbow. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $250 in the middle. The action ends up checking through. The turn card comes a beautiful king of diamonds. We now pick up the absolute nuts, and it's a full rainbow. Literally worried about nothing. Pretty much just the board pair might kill even more action, but who knows? I don't think I can do anything here besides just check. It's best to take my hand at its merit and just check call and then probably raise rivers, I think. Anyways, we're going off to a river card that comes a 5 of spades. At this point, this is where a fun thing happens, where I decide to blocker bet. I make it $35 to go. It's fun to do this when you have a hand or when you want to actually block, and, you know, feels like a good time to balance when I have the nuts. $35 to go, but unfortunately both players make the fold. And just like that, we are dragging in the very first pot of the night. I don't know about you guys, but for me, whenever I win the very first hand, I feel like, you know, it's only up from here. It makes me feel like it's going to be a good session. Moving right along into the very next hand, and we decide to get the $20 blind raise or straddle, but there's no, you know, action with it, even if it's checked around or limp to you. But anyways, that's just how the commerce works. And at this point, the very next hand, the same player that 3-bet from the last hand decides to open to $110. Yeah, that's a pretty big sizing. 5.5x to go. It ends up folding all the way to me. We look down at pocket jacks from the straddle. This is a beautiful, beautiful sight. Look, there's no perfect way to play jacks. And let's go ahead and muck this up. As I end up deciding to just go all in, my opponent has about $800 behind. So, I don't know, feels like a reasonable jam, I guess. I don't really know what to do. The sizings are all weird. He ends up pretty quickly deciding to make the fold, and just like that, back-to-back hands, starting off the session strong. Let's see if we can go up from here. Moving right along, quite a bit of shenanigans has gone on, and like I said, it's almost too much to even go over, but let's just say there's been a lot of really crazy poker being had. All-ins with 6 high, 7 high, already a 10K pot at the table. I'm licking my chops. I cannot wait to get into this next hand. The straddle is on here. Under the gun makes it $50 to go. +1 makes a call. And I find myself here in late position with ace queen offsuit. A 3-bet is in order, so I decide to bring out the goods. I make it $200 to go. Folds back to the initial raiser, who makes a call, and so does the first caller. We're going 3 ways off to a flop that's fairly bloated. That comes 6, 3, ace. All right, we flop top pair. And there are 2 hearts out there. I don't have a single one of them. Seems like a bet is in order as well. With the action checked over to me, I decide to c-bet for $250. And unfortunately, both players make the fold. Either way, 3 for 3. Feels like we're batting 1,000. Hopefully we can continue this going. Quite some time has gone on between the last hand and this hand. So we're looking a little bit like we're playing pretty conservatively, and we're looking to take advantage of that. Let's just say a VIP decides to limp here from early position, and a solid reg decides to 3-bet, or I guess isolate here from the cutoff to $90. I'm on the button, and we look down at a beautiful suited ace. I think in this situation, my hand plays best as a 3-bet or fold, and it seems like the aggressive manner is going to be a little bit of the better situation in this exact dynamic. I make it $280 to go as a 3-bet. The action folds back to the initial limper, who decides to make the call, and so does the initial 3-better. Well, we're going off to a flop 3 ways. That comes king 6 deuce with 2 spades and a club. Pretty interesting when the VIP decides to donk lead out for $400. The reg decides to make the fold, and the action on me. It sucks. We do only have bottom pair. We were bluffing pre-flop, but there's a ton of draws out there that my opponent can have almost any 2 cards in this instance, so I end up making the call. We're going off to a turn card that comes as 7 of diamonds. At this point in my head, I feel like my opponent can have just a plethora of hands, flushes, straight draws. I mean, for all I know, he has 5 high. And you guys will see as the episode goes along that
that may be true. Anyways, at this point, my opponent decides to bet out the same amount for $400. This pot has ballooned up quite a bit, and I have about $1,500 in my stack. I feel like calling here, it's kind of meh. I think that turning my hand into a bluff is okay. Remember, I 3-bet pre-flop. This is going to be a board that just crushes my range. And I'd probably be doing this against a specific player with aces, kings, queens. Sometimes if I was that sick, probably not, honestly. But it's nice to have, you know, a hand like this. Ace king makes sense. King queen makes sense. So I end up making the jam. My opponent thinks about it for a while and asks for a count. So maybe I'm not in terrible shape. Obviously, we're bluffing, but I mean, maybe we can somehow get called by worse. After a bit of thinking, my opponent decides to flick in the call. And we're going off to a river card that comes the 8 of diamonds. Well, that doesn't improve me and doesn't help us out much more when our opponent decides to show King 10 offsuit. Not a worry in the world. Good hand to you, sir. I guess in reality, I am the real VIP. Either way, like I said, you got to just chalk that one up there for a pretty bad play, but it is what it is. Like I said, I had a read and I had my reasonings because of this specific player and his playing style and his betting tendencies, so I can promise you guys this, after the session, I was totally happy with the play. Looking to rebound back after losing a massive one, I am into this game for $4,500. We top off for $3K, a fresh stack, looking to battle back. Before we get into this next hand, I'm going to ask you guys from the bottom of my heart, if you guys haven't already, please make sure to click the like button down below. It goes a long way in helping these videos reach the algorithm. As you guys know, poker YouTube's been a little funky lately, so I don't know, split second can really go a long way in helping more people learn about close to broke. Coming along with this next hand, I find myself in the cutoff with pocket fours. $60 is the new price of poker. Only the small blind, who's been very prone to calling, makes the call. We're going off to a flop that comes 7-6-3 rainbow. Not a horrible flop for my hands, but not a great one for my range, actually. I don't see myself interacting with this board a great deal. It's definitely going to hit the small blinds, just calling range more, and even more so when he decides to donk lead for $100. We have a gut shot, and we still have a pair, so I end up making the call, and we're going off to a turn card that comes the ace of spades. This is really nice. It's a full rainbow out there, which is okay, and we still have what is range advantage at this point. With the action check to me, I think this is the green light for me to go crazy, ballistic even. I decide to bet $275, looking to target all of his holdings that have a middle pair. Maybe if he has a hand like 5-4, maybe he has a hand like 8-6, 9-7, 8-7. All those hands might be more likely or more prone to folding. Either way, after a bit of thinking, my opponent decides to make the fold. Nice. We end up getting that one through. Feels good to be back in the win column after, you know, blasting it off in the last 10. Let's keep this going. As you guys can see from this video title, get ready and buckle up for a freaking crazy hand. I find myself in middle position and we look down at the beautiful pocket aces. Pocket rockets. This is a dream come true. We're in an action game with a bunch of action players that have shown the propensity to get really out of line pre and post flop. And I have the best hand in frickin' poker. I make it $60 to go. It folds to the late position player who decides to 3-bet to $200. This is one of the action players we had mentioned, and this is a pretty exciting situation as it folds back to me. I feel like 4-betting here is definitely in order. I decided to make it $500 to go. Don't need to be worried about balancing myself here. I'm just trying to get as much money piled into the middle pre-flop as possible. My opponent doesn't think about it for very long before deciding to go all in for 2.5K roughly. I snap call here. This is nearly a $5,000 pot, and I have the best hand in poker. That's the commerce, though. You can't run it twice, and considering how bad I've been running lately, honestly, I wouldn't mind it. Out of nowhere, my heart drops as I see a queen in the window, followed by a brick and an ace. Oh my God, what a cooler. And the sweat is on. There is a $100,000 jackpot, super high hand, whatever the hell they call this thing. This is my first time in my life that I'm actually live for a legitimate jackpot. 100K. If another queen comes, we've got a sweat. And I'll let you guys watch this as the turn card comes a brick. I'm standing up, calling, I'm praying, please, queen, and the river comes, pairing the board, but it's not a queen or an ace. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, to be fair, it was only 1 out of 52 possible cards, but I'll take it either way. 5K shipped my way. Oh my goodness. getting 60% or whatever it is of that would have been insane to hit the jackpot. But nonetheless, we're going to take it, a massive pot to really swing things back into a forward momentum. And buckle up, like I mentioned, guys, because this session is just getting started. The straddle is on and will be for the rest of the session. Under the gun decides to make it $55 to go. Late position calls. I'm in the small blind with pocket fours. I make the call as well. The straddle makes a call, and we're going off way too many ways to the flop that comes a beautiful 6-4 deuce rainbow. We're making a bunch of flops here, not getting a ton of value from them, but this is getting exciting. Interacting with these boards that are going to be really good for my range is exciting. Hopefully somebody's willing to put some money with an overpair in the middle. Either way, the action checks over to the initial raiser, who decides to c-bet for $100. Only I make the call here. I feel like raising might be slightly overplaying my hand. Hard to balance yourself on this super dry board texture. There's not even a flush draw. So we're going off to a turn card that comes a king of spades. Backdoor flush draw is now in the mix. I decided to check it over to my opponent. Surprisingly, he checks it back, and we're going off to a river card that comes a 3 of clubs. Now, any 5 makes a straight, which is not really something to worry about. I doubt that from early position our opponent's going to have a 5 besides maybe pocket 5s, which, again, maybe, but it's easy. We bet and fold to a raise. So I decided to go pretty big here. I make it $325 to go. Like I said, I'm trying to target over pairs, ace, king, king, queen, and random middling pairs that I think just won't have an easy time folding, like 10s and 9s. After a bit of tanking, my opponent decides to make the call. Solid. We end up taking another pot down. And like we said, at this point, besides this, one punt there, there's been a lot of really, really crazy things to really work in our favor. So we're pushing forward at this point. In this next hand, under the gun makes it $60 to go. Who's, like we said, an action player, and the even more action player on the button decides to make the call. We find ourselves in the big blind with pocket queens. A great spot at 3 bets. We did it earlier as a bluff with that ace deuce. Looking to do it now with some value. I decide to 3-bet to $300, which is 5x. Pretty big here, but seems like the right amount. Honestly, I could go even more against these two players, but whatever the case may be, it folds to the button who makes a call. We're going heads up, out of position to a really, really unfortunate flop that comes ace 6-3 rainbow. Maybe a c-bet is in order, but against this specific player, I don't know. I feel like he can have any 2 cards. Yes, even 6-3 offsuit in this case. And I want to check to him and see what he does. After I check, he decides to bet $900. A massive overbets and just something I'm not willing to call. It's a rainbow board texture. Even if he has a hand like, I don't know, 4-5 or something crazy, I'm just never going to get to see the river for cheap. And when that's the case, you just got to tip your cap. If he has a better hand, great. If he has a worse hand, even better, whatever. I end up making a pretty disciplined fold here, and he would show me the ace. Feel a little better about my fold, obviously knowing that it was the right fold, and happy that with the table dynamics, the live tells that I'm getting, I'm able to really finagle my way through today's session. Continuing with the session, like I said, we're several hours in by this point. Feeling a little fatigued, to be quite fair, but the game is just too good that sometimes you can't just, be out of it. You got to just freaking lock in and just be in the game. At this point, I'm on the button with Jack 10 of diamonds, probably one of my favorite hands in poker. $60 to go. Big blind, straddle call. Flop comes Jack, Jack 7, rainbow. Flop, a massive, massive stranglehold on the hand. Checked over to me. I think I just have this board absolutely dominated. There's no point in betting. I'm never going to get any action from 2 players that have been super, super tight post-flop. So the action ends up checking through, and the turn card comes a 6 of hearts, introducing some straight draws and some backdoor flush opportunities. With the big blind leading for $80 and the straddler making the call, at this point it seems like we are going to stop laying the trap and really attack out the player pool here. I'm in between sizings, but I feel like going a little bit larger makes more sense. It's really difficult to be called by a hand that my opponent can have that contains a jack, considering there's 3 of them accounted for. And like we mentioned, I'm mostly targeting draws that I'm probably going to get no value from on the river unless they make their hand, in the case which, again, I won't be getting value because they would have made their hand. With the action on me, I make it $300 to go. Unfortunately, both players end up making the fold. Maybe I went too large there. Who knows? But again, there's just so much draws out there. I feel like it'd be a little ridiculous if I made it like $200 to go. So we live and you learn. Gonna be okay with that result either way. Forgive me as this next hand has no video, but it's important to mention because whether I win or lose, it's important that you guys know how the session is going. Under the gun decides to make it $60 to go. Next stack decides to make the call, and the action's now on the cutoff. He decides to 3-bet to $275. The cutoff is a really solid reg that I've seen play here quite a bit. A little worrisome, but even more confusing when we are in the button, or on the button I should say, and we look down at pocket jacks. Well, there's no right way to play jacks, so why not try to play in the most wrongest of ways? I decide to 4-bet here to $700. I feel like being the aggressor makes the most sense. I'm on the button, which is even better. To have position for the entirety of the hand just feels like it's all aligned for me to take aggression and 4-bet here. With the action folded back over to the player, he decides, after quite a bit of tanking, to make the call. All right, so we're going in a really massive pot, and the flop is absolute perfect, guys. Jack, jack, deuce. Oh my god. No, we're just not running that good, are we? The flop is king, queen, queen with 2 hearts and a club. That's about right. With the action checked over to me, it'd be ridiculous to bet at this pot. I'm either still way ahead, and he has like 10s or 9s or ace jack or something, or we're just way behind because this is not a good flop for me in my range, or my holding at least. The turn card comes even more hysterical as it comes the king of spades. We are now counterfeited. I am playing jack high. With the action on my opponent, he decides to lead out for $700. He could have bet $10. I would have folded either way. Just frustrating. I'm super tilted at this point, and maybe you can hear it in the laughter and the frustration as I break this hand down. I'm in the cutoff, and I make it $60 to go. Small blind decides to make the call, and so does the straddle. Ace jack of spades is a great hand, even if we're going 3 ways. The flop comes as it comes queen 9-9 rainbow. Not a whole lot to go with the action checked over to me. Feels like a pretty easy check, get the showdown, realize my equity, or at least a backdoor variety of it. And the turn card comes that as it comes the deuce of spades. Pretty nice as we now pick up the nut flush draw. A little weird though when the small blind decides to lead out for $160. With the action now on me, never folding the nut flush draw. I'm probably gonna be good at some frequency of the time here. I make the call, and we're going off to a river card that comes this.
I am super tilted. At least the game's big, so we're in for a lot, and we are finding ourselves in tough spots constantly. That Jack's hand was a perfect example of it. Like I said, I'm super frustrated. And but yeah, luckily the game is big, so all I have to do is hop back in there hopefully and you know, make some moves. But I think I was initially planning on playing a very short session, but considering how amazing the game is, there's no way I'm gonna be here for another several hours, which means that this is gonna be the end of this video. I don't know, I have like 10 hands already, which is a ton. I'm probably gonna get a ton more hands, so let's get back in there. Hopefully things work out a little more in our favor. We're stuck piles and we're in for piles, so super frustrated, and rightly so. Flops aren't working with us. Our big hands aren't holding up, and we've been having to make some tough folds. So can't say much more beyond that. I hope you guys have a lovely day. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Like I said, come back for part 2. I only imagine it's gonna be more ridiculous, honestly. I mean, so let's hop back into the session. I'm gonna go back to play. You guys are gonna watch. I'm confused. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great day. Stay happy, stay healthy. More importantly, y'all, run good at the table. Deuces.